what's the point? You're just going to keep doing this and making more money until you die? I mean, what is the point here, Joe? So I finally said, well, clearly the point is something else. So I would go off and try something else, and the stand-up kind of resonated. It was about a year after I started the full-time job, less than a year, I think. I started the full-time job towards the end of 2011, early 2012, I guess it was, that I started stand-up again. And that's when I kind of snapped out of my funk. I said, oh, this is a thing. Okay, making full-time money. I can do this in nights and weekends and get better at it. And that's exactly what I've been doing.
And then is that when you did the stand-up clinic?
Yeah, that was when I did the stand-up clinic.
And now is it a group class?
Pardon?
Is it a group class?
Yes. He's available for private coaching as well, but it's a group of people. And he puts you on stage. The class has a little stage in there, and everybody, part of it is lecture, and you do the homework from last week, and you learn joke structure and try to figure things out. And then the second half of the class, everybody gets up and they do their 5 minutes, and you get notes on it and try to improve it. You bring in new jokes, you try old jokes with new fixes on it, and at the end of the class, you do a video. You do a performance in front of people, and you get a video out of it, and you can go off and shop that around to get gigs, and then you get a video from that show, and it leads to more gigs, and you start networking and so on. So that's how that's worked. Yeah, that's how I did. That's what I did. And you know what I'm learning also is to me, stand-up comedy and the business, it's like a puzzle. And I like puzzles. Again, it's very left brain. I get to immerse myself in this puzzle. And one of the things I did was I realized about myself, I'm kind of an erudite guy, the way I talk about stuff. A lot of comedians are kind of filthy, and they talk about their privates and farting and getting high and things. Okay, very nice. But I don't talk about those things. So I started wearing a jacket on stage. It wasn't long before I'd actually wear a sports coat on stage. And it became a brand. And what I quickly realized is that you're going to get far more gigs in this town from other comedians than you are from an agent or directly from a booker. It's other comedians who've been at it longer who say, hey, you're funny. Why don't you come with me and do this thing? I got a gig. We need a guy. You know, we need a guy. Clean comedy pays. You know, you think of these filthy comedians, on Netflix. You never see them doing late night, Conan O'Brien show or the Tonight Show or any of those shows because they're filthy. And they have careers. I mean, you can still have a career being dirty, but you have more doors open for you if you're clean. So I got a gig, for example, there's this comedian I know, he and his wife do stand-up. They split time between Los Angeles and New Orleans. And I met them a few years ago at an open mic here in L.A., and then the husband was back in New Orleans, and he saw a post. A guy was coming to a convention in New Orleans, and he wanted a comedian to help him with his presentation. All the vendors got a chance to present to all the attendees. And he thought he could stand out a little bit if he had a comedian do some time in his presentation. He had 10 minutes. He only needed to talk for 2, and then he wanted me to go do 8 minutes. And I thought, okay. I put in a bid, and I got it. So I flew to New Orleans, and I met the guy, and I said, I don't want to just do 10 minutes of comedy, 8 minutes of comedy. How can I help you? And I, kind of plugged his services a little bit. But the point is, I got that gig because this other comedian thought of me. And he thought of me because I thought to wear a jacket at an open mic. This is how you get branded. He knows plenty of comedians, but he thought of me because I consistently brand myself this way. And I'm a little more top of mind than other comedians when it comes to those sorts of things, I think. I think that kind of thing helps. So I'm always throwing everything at the wall. After a show, I stand out. I thank people for coming, and I give them a card. A lot of comedians, an audience, they'll see a show and they'll drive home and they'll say, the guy with the ukulele was funny. The girl talking about lollipops was funny. The fat guy was funny. There's always a fat guy in the show. Whatever. The guy in the sports jacket was funny. But if the guy in the sports jacket passes out a card, then they're going to know who I am. Yes. And they might follow you on social media. A lot of them don't, but a few of them do. And that's it. You play every edge you can get to try to expand your horizons here. So it's all this hustle that I keep doing.
And plus you had all these extra years for new material. You've grown, and I'm sure that shaped your routine.
Absolutely, it has. As a 19-year-old, I didn't know what to talk about.
Yeah.
And I just made up the weirdest stuff that made no sense. And what I've since learned is that you can exaggerate, but not too much. And I don't remember much of my material from college, but I'm sure a lot of it was so stupid and goofy. But you can, I mean, some comedy is exaggeration. Yeah, and you'll notice this if you watch any of these specials. Comedians are saying things that seem believable, and then they might go a little bit into exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be believable, but it might be false. But it's okay if it seems truthful. I heard a quote from Norm Macdonald: "Comedy doesn't have to be factual, but it should be truthful." And that's what's going to resonate with people, you know. And then you can button something with a little good. For example, Dave Chappelle has a line in one of his specials a few years ago where he said, "I always want to end a set with the line, so I kicked her in the pussy." And then he goes off and tells his story for 2 minutes, and then the story ends with him going, "So I kicked her in the pussy." Now, from all accounts, Dave Chappelle is a decent guy. He probably didn't do that. But it's funny the way he said it. So if you want to end a story by getting a little exaggerated, fine.
Yeah.
But if you get really out there, it's so unbelievable that audiences aren't with you. I mean, that's what I've learned. There's nothing wrong with talking about my life and my sense of this irritation with hypocrisy. I think that's one of my themes in my stand-up, and the ridiculousness. Nobody does anything simply. Everything is ridiculous. At work, they give us fresh fruit and dried fruit. The fresh fruit is out in the open. The dried fruit is in resealable bags. That's the sort of thing I talk about. Why is fruit that's already dried in a resealable bag? Just little things like that I'll just point out and make jokes about. But it's more grounded in reality, and it's more universal. It's stuff that people can, even if they haven't seen it, they get it. So that's the life experience has definitely helped with that.
So once this started happening, you took your class, you started shopping around. Were you getting gigs consistently?
Yes, you can get gigs in L.A. especially, a place like L.A. or New York or maybe a few other cities, Chicago, Atlanta, Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, that kind of thing. You can get gigs 7 nights a week. Vegas is another city. You can get gigs all the time. The question is, at what quality? Because I was taking any schmuck who walks into a bar saying I want to put on a comedy show. It doesn't mean it's going to be good,
right?
But I would get in some of those, and there were some people who just had no idea how to put up a show. One of the worst ones I did, I still remember, was at a sports bar where it was an echo chamber. The acoustics were terrible, absolutely terrible.
No.
And then they didn't turn off the hockey game. Some people just wanted to watch the hockey game, and some guys are smart enough to wait till the game's over before they start the show. And the show might start 20 minutes late, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's L.A. Everybody's late anyway. But some people don't. They're like, no, let's start now. And then in this particular show, the wireless mic didn't work very well. If I moved a foot in either direction, it would cut out. So I had to hold really still while I did my set. And I'm just looking at all of this. They couldn't get the mic to work. So we all saw this happening. And then the MC said, "Who wants to go first?" And my hand went up right away. And a lot of comedians don't want to go first in a situation like this. And I'm thinking, I immediately size this up, and I'm thinking, how on earth do you think this situation is going to get better by waiting? So I went first. I said, "Thank you very much." And then I got in my car and left. And I'm not hanging out for this. This is a disaster. And not surprisingly, the mic didn't last very long there. The bar wasn't making money from it. Nobody wanted to watch it. But I would take those gigs because that makes you stronger. It's not just about getting up in front of a hot audience and reciting the jokes you've memorized. If you can connect with people who are not into you, who are not paying attention, if you can put on a smiley face when things are going wrong, that takes practice. It's your instinct is to get mad about it, and you can get mad in the car afterwards. But the two people sitting down front who are watching a comedy show, they don't want you to rain on the parade. They're here to see a show, so do the best you can. So it does make you stronger. So there is value in that. As I tell my students, because I teach now at Jerry's class, Jerry Corley's stand-up comedy clinic.
Very cool.
I say, you get stronger from bombing, but you don't go out and look for it. It'll happen. You're going to bomb whether you like it or not. Don't say to yourself, "Gee, I haven't bombed in a while. I'll go bomb tonight." No, bombing will happen. And the trick also is to roll with it. Just try just do the best you can without panicking, and you'll get better at it. You'll learn how to handle situations better by practice. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's an answer for you.
I remember hearing Steve Harvey saying he wanted to. He saw a comedian bombing, and he wanted to sit there and watch him. Like, why do you want to see this guy's dying on stage? I want to see if he pulls himself out of this. I want to see that if there's a way that he gets out, because this way I can learn. Like if I'm bombing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody sees Comics Crush.
Yeah.
That's all you put on YouTube. Nobody puts on YouTube the time they bombed. No. You don't see much of that. So that's such a comedian answer. Because audiences will cringe and get quiet and want to leave. Yeah. Comedians will eat that up. They're going, wow, how does he do that? And, good for Steve Harvey. It's no coincidence that Steve Harvey went on to become a very successful guy because he embraced moments like that. Chris Rock is another one when he first started, would just watch hours and hours of live comedy night after night after night. And there's a lot of value in that. I think watching other comedians is one thing that comedians don't do enough of, because we're always busy. We have to drive to the next gig. We have to do our day job. We got to go to bed. We got to sit in traffic. We can't be late for the thing, and we got to drill our set in private, before we go, and on and on and on. So if you have the time to watch comedians, especially live, particularly live, because those Netflix specials are dressed up to make the comedian look perfect. They shoot 3 or 4 of those with the same outfit on, and then take the best laughs, the best delivery. And those all look pretty. So watch live comedy, and you'll learn a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, because you're in the room. There's that energy in the room, something like that. And you could
absolutely.
Feel...
You don't know the energy in the room when you're watching a Netflix special. Plus, they sweeten them so much.
Yeah,
It's hard to say how much of that laughter is real.
What is your process in writing your jokes or a sketch?
Keeping my radar on. It's not. It's I'd like to get to a point in my day-to-day life where I can schedule time every day to write, but I'm so pulled this way and that I don't have as much time to write as I would like. But I do keep my radar on as often as possible, because you're going to find things that suddenly resonate with you. You're going to say, well, wait a minute, that's hypocritical, or wait a minute, there's something false in that. There's something ironic in that. There's a wordplay joke in there. There's a statement. If you just say a sentence about what you're seeing, if you just say it out loud or write it longhand, you're going to discover that there's a wordplay joke. There's a word with a double meaning in there. You're going to see the merging of two incongruous ideas, and you're going to find the extrapolated absurdity out of that. A lot of late night comedians do that. The monologists, the hosts. A lot of late night jokes are like that. Yes. It's a very old style kind of thing. Fallon does that. Conan does a lot of that. And you'll suddenly, as you do more of that, you can look at a newspaper headline and you're going to see that the punchline will be easier to come up with, because you'll find those incongruities and merge them together. And keep a pen with you. I have a pen and notepad with me at all times.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. Or if you don't have that, get the recorder out. And I used to do yoga, and I couldn't quiet my mind, because I would always think of a joke or something. I'd be in the corner of my yoga class, and I would bring my yoga mat and all this thing, and a pad and a pen. So even if I was in some weird pose, I'd break the pose because I had to write down this joke about Adam and Eve that I just thought of or something. Because you're not going to remember it.
No.
Well, I'll remember it at the end of class. No, you won't. And you'll be so angry at yourself because you'll remember it was a great joke, but you won't remember what the joke was. And that's a really frustrating, infuriating feeling. Sometimes I'll think of it a day later, and sometimes you won't. And so I always had to carry a notepad with me, and I kept disrupting my own yoga. But for me, I've gone through those phases where I have time to write down jokes, and if you don't have a joke, the hardest way to write a joke is to write a joke. You don't start by writing a joke. You start by writing a setup. Start by writing an observation. Start by writing a fact. Write 50 facts about yourself, and there could be jokes in there. I'm from Los Angeles. Well, there might be some jokes in there. I'm 6'1", and there might be a joke in there, but you don't know. So that's why you just write as many facts as you can. And then when you get into the interesting stuff, then you can. It kind of opens up possibilities. Write down what irritates you. Jerry Corley, who runs the stand-up comedy clinic, years ago, he was a limousine driver, and he once drove George Carlin.
Wow.
And Carlin said, yeah, when you're a limo driver in L.A., you meet everybody. And he said to Carlin, he said, what's the best way to